Okay guys, today we're going to talk about factoring by grouping. And when we factor by grouping, you'll begin with 4 terms. Because it's not like a trinomial or anything like that. When you have 4 terms, the first thing you should think about is, ooh, I have to group. What you are doing with grouping, first of all, the first thing you ask yourself, you look for always, is the GCF. Once you determine that you take the GCF out or there isn't one, then we go ahead and we're going to group. You're going to take the first 2 and the second 2 together. Make sure this sign stays with your parenthesis. If it's negative, it stays in there, so make sure you guys see it. So what you're going to end up doing is just taking the GCF out twice. So I look here, between x cubed and x squared, what do they have in common? They both have x squared. So if I factor out the x squared, I'm left with x minus 1. Then I look at my second set of parentheses. They both have a 2. I'm going to take out a positive 2, and then I'm left with x minus 1. And what you have done is you have found the GCF. The GCF of this is actually x minus 1. They both have an x minus 1. So we bring it out, write it one time out in front, and then your leftovers get their own parentheses. So x squared plus 2. And then you look to say, okay, can I factor that anymore? Is that the difference of perfect squares? No, it's not. So you're good to go. Let's do a couple of examples. All right, first thing we're going to look for here is the GCF. Is there a letter and or number that they have in common? What I notice here about this one is that it is not written in standard form. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it into standard form. So I have 8x to the 5th plus 12x cubed minus 6x squared minus 9. All right, so there's not a letter or number that I can take out of all 4 of those. So no GCF. I'm going to now say, all right, well, let me group it. First 2, second 2. Remember, keep that negative sign with that 6x squared. So what do we have in common here with 8x to the 5th and 12x cubed? Well, I can take out a 4x cubed in both of them. So divide out 4x cubed. That's going to come out in front, 4x cubed. And I'm left with 8 divided by 4 is 2. 5 minus 3 gives me x squared. Plus 12 divided by 4 is 3. And my x cubes cancel. So now I look at my second parenthesis and I say, okay, I have negative 6x squared and a negative 9. Well, what can I take out of both of them? I can divide out a negative 3. So I take out my negative 3. Negative 6 divided by negative 3 gives me 2x squared. Negative 9 divided by negative 3 gives me a plus 3. And what you guys notice, I have 2 parentheses that are exactly the same. That is our new GCF. So I take that out, write it one time out in front, and then the leftovers get their own parentheses. So I'm left with 4x cubed minus 3. All right, same thing. Look at the next one. Is there a GCF? No. So now I say, okay, I have 4 terms. So I'm going to group the first 2 and the second 2. Make sure that negative stays with that 5x. What can I take out of x cubed and x squared? I can take out an x squared, and I'm left with x plus 1. What can I take out of negative 5x and a negative 5? I can take out a negative 5, and I'm left with x plus 1. So now you see what they have in common is the x plus 1. Take it out, write it one time out in front, and our leftovers get their own parentheses. All right, let's look at the next one. Again, first thing we look at, GCF. There is not one, so I'm going to group. Since I have 4 terms, I'm going to group the first 2 and the second 2. Keep that negative with that third term right there so you can make sure that your signs are correct when you factor. So between x cubed and 5x squared, I can take out an x squared, and I'm left with x plus 5. Negative 5 and negative 25, I can take out a negative 5, and I'm left with x plus 5. So now you guys notice, oh look, the parentheses are the same. So I'm going to write it one time out in front. And then my leftovers get their own parenthesis. Now guys, get into the habit of when you get to this point, look to see, oh, can I factor any more? Is x squared minus 5 different to perfect squares? No, but probably on a test or a quiz coming up, you will have a situation where you can factor a little bit more. So just make sure you guys are always getting the habit of looking. All right, let's look at the last one here. Again, no GCF. There's no letter or number that I can take out of all four. So I'm just gonna go ahead and group my first two and my second two, include that negative sign on the 15x. So what can I take out of 3x cubed and x squared? I can take out an x squared, and I'm left with 3x plus 1. What can I take out of negative 15x minus 5? I can take out a negative 5. I divide negative 5 here and negative 5 here. I get 3x plus 1. So you guys notice I have two parentheses that are exactly the same. That's our GCF. I'm going to take it out, 3x plus 1. I write it one time out in front, and then our leftovers get their own parenthesis. So x squared minus 5 is right there in its own parenthesis. So now you guys have your notes on grouping. Go ahead and get your homework assignment done. Get it done before class ends, and then you don't have anything to do tonight.